Hello, and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today, we're going to have a very interesting show. Can you imagine making lots of money, lots of money, in the midst of this crisis we're experiencing economically? Well, today's show is going to be about just that. We have with us Tyrone Jackson, who is accomplishing that end, and he has a workshop that he offers across the country on the East and West Coasts called the Wealthy Artists Millionaires Club. And it's very wonderful for us to have him on the show today to talk to us about a change in thinking, a change in consciousness, that when we do this, well, there's actually no end to the abundance that can come our way in many different ways in our lives. So, Tyrone, so glad to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mitchell. I really appreciate you having me here. I really do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you have been my teacher now for the past few months, and I am enjoying it so much.
Thank you.
It's both intensely entertaining and highly profitable and educational. So it's because of these elements that you've brought together that I wanted to share what you're doing with our audience.
Thank you.
Because, you know, you're an actor, right? Give us a little bit of an idea of your background.
Well, I've actually been an actor for 27 years, so I've done everything that...
You don't look old enough to do it for 27 years.
I know, but my knees tell a different story. and I do everything that a working actor does. So, I've worked in the soaps.
So what's the restaurant you work at?
No. Everything other than that.
Oh, I see.
On and off soaps.
The old joke. In fact, resolution to that joke is one of the things that you really offer. You know, actors can go from restaurant work as waiters to actually becoming their own investors with you.
Well, actors can do a lot of things, and creative people can do a lot of things. And we're in an exciting time in our world history, certainly in our country's history, where technology makes it possible for us to have access to, say, things like the financial markets. And what I learned as a performer growing up was, my dream was to really be a working actor, and I was successful enough to really accomplish that. And when I say accomplish that, I also mean like 2 pensions, one from Screen Actors Guild, one from AFTRA, things like that. So really,
So you were saying that you've been acting for 27 years.
Oh, sure. Opportunity to work with a lot of big stars and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's really fascinating about show business is even though you do that, that doesn't mean that you're rich, right? So I've made a living, but I wanted to build wealth for myself at the same time.
I see. Well, what are some of the movies you were in?
I've done a number of
so
them.
Many.
Your audience will know. Or they won't. More than that, I've done a lot of commercials.
They will recognize your name.
They might, or they'll say, that guy looks really familiar.
I know that guy.
And that's the life of a recognizable actor as opposed to a celebrity.
Exactly, exactly. So you went from that, but you say you wanted to build wealth. So you made enough money to live and probably live reasonably well.
Correct.
So what was that change in your mindset that had you start to go in this direction?
Well, it's so funny you bring that up, because ultimately what I realized is if I wanted to have wealth, this definition of wealth that I use at the Wealthy Artists Millionaires Club is having more than what you need, right? So the idea is if you have $1,000 in your savings account, let's say, you actually do have wealth, right? We're in a country where a form of it, right? So how do we take that $1,000 and make it $10,000? How do we take that $10,000 and make it $100,000, $100,000 and make it $500,000, or whatever the number is that you desire?
Now I'm getting excited.
I know, I'm excited too, Mitchell. I'm really excited too, and I do this. But I think the idea is it was one thing for me to start to build wealth for myself. And then learning how to help other people do the same thing is ultimately what the Wealthy Artist Program is all about.
Yes.
And that requires a shift in consciousness.
Well, what's nice is that you have kind of targeted a niche of people in this society that are usually not thought of as wealthy, except for the celebrity artists.
That's correct.
In music, in art, in acting, who have made it. But percentage-wise, that is minute.
Yes.
So you have gone for this idea. I mean, there is this prevalent idea, as you know, Tyrone, of the starving artist,
Mm-hmm.
the poor artist. And you are really flipping that around on its head.
That was the intention. That was the intention.
Yeah.
You know, the whole idea of wealth building, as I say, starts in your consciousness. And one of the things that I realized, I'm not going to tell any tales out of school here on TV, but a lot of people watch these award shows, the Tonys, the Emmys, and they don't realize that these gorgeous people who you see up there accepting these awards and presenting, some of them have credit problems. Some of them have serious financial problems. Even though they're famous, they can still have bad financial habits. So rich and famous doesn't necessarily mean that you have good credit. And rich and famous, just because you appear to be rich and famous, doesn't mean that you actually are.
Exactly.
So those are two different animals, which
That's
of
right.
course I try to address in the program.
That's very interesting. I mean, what you're really kind of suggesting in that comment is there's an idea of financial balance, which is totally related to psychological and emotional balance.
That is exactly right.
You know?
That is exactly right.
Now, one of the things you always say to us in class, Tyrone, is where is wealth?
It's in your thinking.
It's in your thinking.
Let me explain what I mean by that,
Please
just
do.
very quickly.
Please.
I grew up raised by a single female, right? And in my house,
Known as your mother.
known as also in some circles as my mother. That is correct. And one of the things my mother used to tell me was life was hard. You'll see when you get out there. This has nothing to do with show business, but when you get out in the real world, life is going to be difficult. You'll see when you get out there. And I kept thinking to myself,
Can't wait. You know, what an
That's right.
interesting setup that is, right?
it is if you believe that.
Exactly.
And I always believed something different, that there was something different in the world other than life being hard, especially in financial terms. And what I discovered was there was a direct relationship between what I thought and the amount of money that I made, and the amount of money that I kept, and the amount of money that I grew.
Right.
And you know from
So
being
early on in your life, you saw that correlation, that
Absolutely.
there's a direct correspondence.
well, it didn't make sense to me.
Right.
It didn't make sense to me
You didn't buy into it.
No, because when you're 16 and you're learning about immigrants coming to this country and one of the wonderful
Exactly.
things that they've been able to accomplish, you know, I'm a United States citizen. Everything is possible here
Right,
in our country.
exactly.
So that notion of struggle to me just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the joys, if I may say, of being in your class is that where other people come and feel that, oh my God, they watched some television, they heard on the radio that the economic crisis is getting worse by the day, and the Dow is down, and Standard & Poor's stocks are not showing properly, and the banking industry is trashed, which it is. But you, when we come in, are just radiating with hope.
Yes.
And with positivity, and saying, oh, I love this market. I mean, explain.
Okay.
I love that about you.
Well, thank you very much.
Truly.
But the truth is, I'm just delivering that message because as anybody who trades in the stock market knows, in every crisis, there's an opportunity. And it's not that we're looking to take advantage of people. We're just looking to take advantage of the market.
Market conditions.
Market
if you
conditions,
will.
and there's a wonderful opportunity. So a stock, for example, which is a share of ownership in a company, can only do one of three things. It can go up, go down, and stay the same. Go up, go down, or stay exactly the same. Rarely do stocks, as you now know, stay the same, right?
Right.
Our job as wealthy artists, and also as traders and investors, is to be able to make money when stocks go up, fairly easy.
Yes.
To make money when stocks stay the same,
Ooh.
and to make money when stocks decline. And once you really understand that concept, the next thing that you need to know is the how-to.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why I'm excited, because
And
I happen
enter
to know
Tyrone Jackson.
how to do that. Not just
Exactly.
me, a lot of other people
Oh,
do
of
it.
course, of
And
course.
what I really wanted to do is say, well, once I've amassed this knowledge, why not bring it to this community? And someone told me,
People
Mitchell,
that you like and care about.
exactly, and people who do work from their soul,
Exactly.
but have to deal with money as a reality.
Exactly.
Someone told me when I first started this program.
People who believed your mother's words.
Yes.
Life is hard.
Exactly, because your wealth is in your thinking. If you think it's hard, it's going to be hard. Someone told me when I first started this program, it's a great idea, but you'll never get that many creative people in a room who are interested in money and wealth, because creative people like to be creative. So what I say now, I do the Wealthy Artist Program in New York, right? We have 2 nights, it's so big, in the San Francisco Bay Area, and of course in Hollywood. So I guess I'm doing all right at getting people who really are interested
I
in
have a feeling.
prosperity. Isn't that nice?
Exactly. Totally.
Yeah.
If I could tell you what it's like to be in Tyrone's classes, let me tell you. People walk in, they're so happy.
Yes,
they
they
leave,
are.
they're so happy. We can't sleep at night.
Right, I know.
That night that we have class
I tell
with
you that all the time. Yeah, some of you are not going to sleep tonight based on what you're learning.
It's the information, but it's also the energy of the group.
Yes.
We have so much fun. We all like each other so much.
Yes, you do.
We are bantering about you're a stitch, and I say, I don't know if you're going to get an education or just entertained.
Well,
you get both.
I think the idea is a little bit of both.
It really is.
You know,
you really do make it fun, Tyrone.
Well, thank you.
You really do.
You know,
It's
one
a gift.
one of the principles that
way
we
you
talk
do it.
about in Millionaire all the time is we don't marry stocks, we date them,
date.
right? Now, why do I use that? That's just an image that creative people can hold on to.
Totally.
And anybody who's not, doesn't have a vast financial education can relate to the idea of marriage and dating, and we do the same thing with our money.
Exactly. And many people who are married would rather be dating.
Yes, and some people who are married would rather not be married. But that's not the show for this.
Exactly. That's a sequel.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, the point being, whatever, many people are happily married, and many people do get Dow stocks, to continue the analogy.
That is correct.
And they hold them for the dividends
Right.
over time and build wealth. This is one of the things you share with us.
Yes.
To build wealth through large acquisition
Yes.
at a low price.
That is correct.
Hopefully,
That is correct.
of those Dow stocks, which are really the bulwark, you could say, of the market.
That is correct. When you're buying stocks that are in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, you're buying the best of what America is. Small companies like McDonald's, Coca-Cola, AT&T, you may have heard them, right?
Yes.
So in a sense, it's an act of patriotism, but also those stocks pay something called a dividend.
Yes.
And as we've been talking about in Millionaire lately, the idea is that we really don't want income, because income is something that you have to go out and work for, right? We're really striving
By
for
definition,
what?
yeah.
Right. We're really
Revenue.
striving residual
income.
Right. The idea that you do something once and you get residuals over and over and over
Exactly.
again. Again, a very easy concept for people to relate
Exactly. But this brings up an interesting wrinkle in all of this, which really happens for me, because of my general orientation, which is very kind of health conscious and environmentally conscious and things like that, equity conscious in terms of equity for all beings, because of the show A Better World. Thinking about McDonald's and where they get their meat and who they serve and how they serve and all of that is not something particularly interesting to me. So I would not myself be interested on first blush to invest in a company. That means putting my hard-earned money into something that I actually don't believe in.
Sure.
But you, I will say here, has helped me, you've helped me come over that, overcome that in a certain way, and say, look, there's a way of investing to make money and then use that money wisely
Yes.
for the things in which I do believe.
That is correct.
And that's an important point, because I do not drink Coca-Cola.
Right.
I do not eat McDonald's.
Right.
And, so I wouldn't want to participate there. And I'm not interested in them actually becoming big companies, except that I might make money so I can use it for Greenpeace.
Exactly.
And use it for the charities, et cetera, in which I believe.
That is correct. And
So I want to make that point to people, that you can use the stock market in such a way as what you could call a sly investor.
yes, you
if
can.
You will.
That's exactly right. And you can also invest and trade, because there is a difference. You can invest and trade from your conscious. So for example,
Yes.
I'm thinking of a company right now which has great earnings called Clean Harbor, right? And what they do is they clean up after environmental spills, right?
Oh, yes.
So they look at local economies and local environments, and they see that they're not damaged, and they take a cleanup plan. So
course.
that company is publicly traded. It's very profitable. If you wanted to be a part of that effort or enterprise, then you could be a
Exactly.
shareholder in that company.
Exactly.
But, it also is amazing to me how many people walk around, obviously, with iPods, and they don't own a share of Apple Computer. And most people don't even know you can buy one share.
Is that interesting?
Isn't that
exactly
something?
One
So
share.
sometimes it's the way that we interact with our world. There's profitability in the products and services that we use in our home.
Exactly, exactly. And in fact, I am a green investor, and I do invest in a number of small but companies that I do believe in what they're doing and what they stand for. And it feels really good.
It's a wonderful part. I always say,
Yeah.
I once read in a book, if you really want to help a lot of people, make a lot of money, because that way you can have more money to give away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I like that that is actually a tenet of what you teach. You
Absolutely.
say, look, if you were coming to these classes to learn how to become wealthy, I ask you, always say, to give some of it away, give some of it from your heart to something that's meaningful to you.
Absolutely, and that's part of the mission of the Wealthy Artist Millionaires Club.
Exactly, and you set it up that way. It's great. So you teach in New York, you teach in San Francisco, you teach in Hollywood, and what are the results? What's going on?
What's very interesting, you mentioned the whole, like when you walk in the room,
Yeah.
how positive it is. And
Giggly.
And it becomes, it becomes like a community of highly successful creative people. Some of the people who are in the room, you know, they have Tony Awards and they've written Broadway shows and
Sure.
on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And but we share that common thought of prosperity. And so that makes it easy to walk before this group of people and say, here's a strategy that you can use tonight. Or did you think of it this way? Or in your last profitable trades, how about doing this? Some of those people, like you, have missions. They have nonprofit organizations.
Exactly.
And they start a portfolio for their nonprofit organization. And then that organization has a revenue stream. So,
Exactly.
you know, it's all of those things. Just to tell you also, as an aside,
Please.
another wonderful thing that has come out of Millionaire is how many people are now, because we focus on monthly income from your portfolio, how many people now are taking their parents' accounts
Yes.
and producing monthly income from their parents from these covered calls that we sell, and being able to help people in their family in that way. And that was something I
That is
never
so
anticipated.
important. I can't even, you know, think of it.
Right.
Because, I mean, basically they say, Tyrone, that people's stock portfolios have gone down some 30 to 40%.
Correct.
Even if it's 25, it's a lot
Sure.
for people who are retired, who are relying on that money for the duration of their lives.
But if you knew how to generate income from your holdings,
And so you can teach people how to generate income from their 401ks or from the IRAs.
yes. Yes, that's what we do. Is the idea that even if a stock can only go up, down, or stay the same, no matter what condition the stock is in, there is income to be derived. And I mean income that you can either reinvest or income that you can put in your pocket if you need that money.
And use
Yes.
for your rent, your mortgage, or whatever it
Whatever
might be.
it is that
So-
that it is that you want. And when I discovered this particular strategy, I'm one of those people that has to share it with the world.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what. Oh,
Isn't that
right.
great?
Right. You're a showman. You're a performer.
Thank
you want
you.
to speak.
Well, what I try to do is just bring that entertainment element. Actually, I don't try to do it. It happens naturally.
I know you're right.
and it helps people remember these strategies and understand the market, and it's not intimidating at all.
Exactly. Now, is it difficult? Not to bring back your mother, but rather just, is what you teach difficult for people who have no financial education to learn to implement?
Not if they have the motivation and desire. I'm a huge fan of the law of attraction. I'm sure a lot of your audience is familiar
Totally.
with The Secret, right?
Totally.
The idea that we draw to us what our dominant thoughts are on a consistent basis, right?
Exactly.
So there's one thing I have learned, because there's a wonderful saying I once heard, which is teachers always teach what they need to learn most. And one of the things that I've learned from helping other people with money is that broke people tend to hang out with broke people. Wealthy people tend to hang out with wealthy people. Kind people tend to hang out with kind people. So like always attracts like.
Indeed.
So the most important thing in wanting to build wealth for yourself is desire. And then you will find other people who are like you.
Exactly.
And so any concept, it makes it easy for any concept to be explained.
So when you teach people how to write covered calls, for instance, you don't need to have some kind of advanced degree in economics from Columbia or anything. Just when people have desire, the wish and the intent to succeed.
That is correct.
Financially in this case.
That is correct.
It can happen by the way you teach people how to do
Well,
it.
I teach them with that in mind. My goal is not really to, part of what I like to do is demystify the financial community. And sometimes we're sitting there and an issue will come up as it relates to, let's say, the dollar. Right, and the U.S. dollar and inflation. Right now, that's more.
I think I brought that up the other night.
I think you did the other night. I didn't want to say anything, but yes, that was you. And I think the idea is that is a somewhat complex concept for the beginner, and so that feeds the idea of I don't get this, I don't understand. So we're back to dating versus marrying stocks because that's something that people can understand.
Yes, exactly. Got it. So I've got to say that what I've experienced in the class is that people, because we all have a lot of side conversations.
Okay.
Some of these
Is
folks,
that right? I didn't know that.
You didn't notice that?
Everybody just comes and goes, Tyrone, you're great. I didn't know there were these side conversations.
You think we're talking about you all the time.
Oh, is that what you, are we not? Are we not?
No, we actually use each other and we partner up a little bit.
Very good.
After class, and help each other. Because it's, there's a certain feeling of being out there and there are 40,000 some odd stocks in the world and, some guidance, and we use the brokerage houses to help out. But I'm gathering, Tyrone, that these people are really becoming successful under your educational guidance.
Well,
I mean, this is becoming real.
Well,
this is not theoretical.
It's definitely real. And someone said to me, the whole Wealthy Artist program is not just a program, it's a movement. And I thought, oh my God, that's pretty big. But it's definitely real. It's definitely helping people. And sometimes people come in and they have no money and they find $3,500 to start a brokerage account. But the thing that has surprised me most is how many people already have $1 million who are in Millionaire and didn't know what to do with it because either they inherited it or they sold a piece of real estate. So you're sitting next to some pretty hot folks there.
That's cool. It's fun. It's really fun. I really enjoy it. I've been connecting with many of them so well. It's all, it's like a little community.
Have you noticed that people who are negative don't stay with Millionaire very long?
Yeah.
Why? Because there's so much positivity in the room. Like always attracts like.
Exactly.
And negative people go, this is just too much for me. I got to get out of here.
Right. I mean, don't you watch TV? Don't you hear what they're saying on CNN? I mean, you're right, Tyrone, and they're wrong. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, listen, the knowledge we're talking about, I don't want to make it sound like, I have a vast knowledge base that most people don't.
Right.
People who trade in the market understand how to profit when stocks go up, stay the same, or go down. Exactly. I just brought that knowledge to the creative community.
Yes, exactly.
And that's really all that I've done.
But it should also be said that I noticed some of the people in the class have been CPAs and financial planners and advisors and lawyers. I mean, you've attracted some people who are not known as creative necessarily.
That is correct.
And they are getting an education. I've seen their faces and I've seen their jaws drop.
No matter what you do, you can't keep the lawyers out. They're always going to sneak in there somewhere. But yes, there are accountants there as well, who sit down and look at these strategies and they go, I always wondered what that meant.
Yes, exactly. The fact is, I was exposed to some of covered calls actually some years ago, but I didn't have a frame of reference. I felt like I was treading water in the market. I never felt the confidence to actually attempt to implement. And I'm just saying that what has happened to me as a result of being in your class is that I have the confidence to step up to the plate and just do some of these trades and investments.
Well, I always say, isn't it funny that money is the one thing, no matter how much education you have, where you went to school, who your family is. Isn't it funny that money's the one thing that we all have in common and we are the least educated on?
Isn't it wild?
So I wish there was more financial education in schools. Because my program probably wouldn't be quite as successful. But the point is, there's nothing like a financial education to show you what your choices are. Exactly. My family relatives used to say, if you want to succeed in this world, you're going to need an education. You're going to need an education. But what they didn't know is that the world would change so vastly that also what I would need is a financial education.
Exactly. Exactly. There's another point, Tyrone, that I really like to make, which is that I've been invited into, I have interviewed people who teach prosperity and abundance workshops. They are abundant these days because people have this idea on their mind of becoming prosperous on many different levels, money being one of them, love, etc., just goodwill, well-being, etc. But talking about money, a lot of these programs help people drop the subconscious programs they have that limit their understanding, their consciousness about what they may deserve or be entitled to or be able to create.
Exactly.
You know, self-doubt, worthlessness, all sorts of negative self-images.
Correct.
They focus only on that, and they don't focus actually, once that stuff is cleared out and they become an open vessel for potential, there's not a whole lot in these other classes to fill it in.
Correct.
With the how-tos.
Exactly.
Enter Tyrone Jackson.
Well, you know, I was a...
and I so appreciate what you're doing because you're giving us the actual,
Exactly.
I'm clear, I've worked it out.
Right. Now what
We've
do
got
I
10
do
more
next?
seconds.
Okay, so quick 10-second response. One of the things that someone told me once when I was in college as a psychology major, you can't take something away without putting something in. And they say that's why dieting doesn't work, because if you're just taking away and not putting something back, a new behavior, how can you be successful? So at the Wealthy Artists Millionaires Club, you know what we do? We try to remove fear and doubt, and we put in inspiration and possibility, and then we marry that with the stock market, and then all you can do is flourish on the how-to part.
Exactly.
How's that for
beautiful.
10 seconds?
I love it.
Are we done already?
Already?
This
Do you
is the
believe
whole
that?
show? Wow.
Did we have fun yet?
I had a great time.
I'm so glad.
And you
Me
managed
too.
to get the Charlie Rose studio without the desk between
For
us.
you, exactly. We
I've
want to
made
be
the big
closer.
time, ladies and gentlemen.
Right here on A Better World with Mitchell J. Rabin.
That's right.
Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you, Mitchell. Anytime.
Absolutely. Really wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, you might marry those things, but remember, just date your stocks.
I like that.
Really great to have you.
Thank you.
This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. I hope you were enriched by that as much as I was, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.